Hello gamers, welcome back to another Free-to-Play Ultimate Iron Man Progress video. So unfortunately, there weren't any stealing parties that I was able to attend between my last video and now, so if you did have a stealing party, I apologize for missing it, and if you didn't, or if you have a stealing accomplishment coming up in the next couple weeks or months, I always recommend having a little party for it. It's nice to get the clan together and get all the GZs in the picture and everything. So, with that out of the way, getting back to it, in my last video, I had finally reached the final four slow skills, that being crafting, smithing, and then the pre-RC wall. So I had been working on crafting, and my goal for that was to finish it before Thanksgiving. That's because I was going to be traveling back to my parents' house for Thanksgiving, I wasn't going to have my PC, and I didn't really want to train any crafting on mobile, so I was trying to get that out of the way. Unfortunately, I couldn't quite make it though. So here's the clip of me getting 99 crafting on my parents' couch on mobile. Crafting was a good skill. I do enjoy the skill, and after I finish the other fast skills like fish cook and wood to fire make after matching, I think crafting would be a good skill to go back to. It's pretty easy to set up for. You just need law runes really and some chronicle teleports, and it gets you 4 different skills worth of XP, which is always nice. But another reason why I was happy to get 9 crafting out of the way was because Leagues had started a couple days after that point. And if you remember from last year, whenever Leagues or really any events that Genesis is putting on comes out that takes up a lot of worlds, like Leagues or Dead Men mode, a lot of times those worlds will pull from the free-to-play world list. I think it's just because it's really easy to convert free-to-play worlds into just any relevant member world. So because of that, free-to-play only has like 20 worlds right now, which makes a lot of the resource competitive skills like crafting really tough to train. So I definitely don't envy anyone who happens to be training that right now. So with 99 crafting out of the way, it was time to move on to smithing. This was the first skill that really did rely a lot on run energy, so I was a little disappointed when the run energy update hadn't come out by this point. But I figured it was better to do this than to do even slower skills like prayer or runecrafting, so I went ahead and jumped straight into it. This method is called Disc of Return, Forging Smithing. The idea of this method is that it utilizes an item called the Disc of Returning. This is a really weird item, so I'll kind of quickly explain how it works. Essentially, way back in RuneScape's history, whenever you would get caught cheating, essentially you wouldn't just get banned, you would sometimes be placed in this like realm of darkness. And the idea is that you would have this Disc of Returning item because you could go to this like realm of darkness, visit any players that had been, caught cheating or whatever, and then you would use this disc to get back. And the idea with this disc is that it works pretty much everywhere within the Dwarven Mine. But the really cool thing about how RuneScape works is that whenever Jagex designs like an area of effect kind of thing, they usually will just use like a basic rectangle or square that covers like the entire intended area. Usually, this is fine, whatever, but the Dwarven Mine is shaped really weirdly. It's essentially shaped like a really big L, and just with like how Jagex designs the general overworld of the game, is that they placed the chunks of other random parts of the game like kind of within these free spaces. So if you think of like the shape of an L, there's essentially going to be a big gap in like the kind of inner part of that, which you can fill with other game chunks. And luckily for us, one of those chunks that Jets put in there was the Falador Crypt chunk. So the Falador Crypt it's really just this like small area underneath the Falador Castle. I don't, at least in free to play, I don't think there's anything or any reason you need to go down there. It might be involved in some pay to play quests, but I don't really know. But interestingly, when Jagex released the Death's Domain update, they added a small bit of space on the far right side of that Falador Crypt area, And because of that, there is a singular row of tiles you can stand on, which is within that disc of return teleport, uh, square or rectangle bracket. So because of that, you can go to this like tile right next to the Death's Domain portal, and you can use this disc to teleport to that realm of darkness. And then, of course, when you teleport out of that realm of darkness, you're right next to the anvil. So it's a really kind of funky method, but it allows you to train smithing using only one law rune per inventory, as opposed to using two law runes to teleport to Falador and then back to Varrock. It's technically slower than that double teleport method, but because it uses half the law runes, it is kind of considered efficient. And it's sort of why this reforging method is included in the efficient time to 200 mil for UIMs, because you have to kill some amount of um, minotaurs to finish runecrafting, and the ogresses that you have left. You can't do all of that with Telegraph Superheat. You have to do some of this. So yeah, this is kind of like a fun method to try and get out of the way. I was getting about 12.5k XP per hour, which really isn't that bad, considering the fact that at any point of the day I can just sit down and do this method. I don't have to worry about world hops. I don't have to worry about going into the wilderness and playing during the weekend. I can just sit down and get smithing XP. So this is a kind of a really cool thing to do. This was also a really good time for me to learn how snow mining worked. So if you know all my past smithing XP, I've pretty much only been doing dwarf mining. That's doing the doing the mining method where I use the auto retaliate action to get essentially an ore every 5 game ticks. But because it's annoying to have to get a new dwarf every single time I come through here, and worrying about which dwarf will actually get me to the iron rots and which ones won't, I decided to learn snow, which I had trouble learning it at first. But after just kind of sitting down, watching Automology's snow mining video, and having the like visual ticks on my own client to try to get the timing down, I did end up figuring it out. And once I did figure it out, it's pretty easy to maintain. If you do misclick, you can just kind of spam snow whenever there's like 6 ticks left on the snow timer. The plugins are definitely really helpful for this method. I actually can't imagine doing this method before the snow timer and before the mining plugins were in the game. But yeah, so I had this method. I had a good 150-ish, 200 hours to do of this, and I thought that was going to take me a long time, but it actually didn't take me much time at all, because this is around the time that I sort of entered the competition season. So in my last video, I had talked about how there were some skilling competitions that were going to be coming up that I wanted to sign up for. And the biggest one of those by far is the Terry Team competition for 2024. So quick background on this competition. It was named after a guy named Terry Davis. He was the founder of Temple OS. He was sort of an eccentric guy, and I guess he passed away a couple of years ago. So for pretty much every year since then, the actual Temple OSRS team has hosted this big Terry comp. Now, this Terry comp is essentially like the skilling competition of the year. It's the one that, it's not clan specific, so everybody can sign up for it, and everybody can drop some pretty crazy hours. So it's a draft style team competition. So essentially, each team has a captain. The captains, they chose the team names based off of like different locations within the game world. I was drafted to the Prifdynast Predators, and you tell the team captains how much you plan on playing, and they draft you based off of that fact. So, kind of getting into my own team here, the Prifdynast Predators, I had told Onyx, or sorry, not Onyx, I had told Utism I was planning to do about 100 hours this week, and so I was drafted based on that fact. And pretty much right from the get-go, I knew that 100 plan was not going to be sufficient. So this was like a crazy competition, and pretty much anybody you talk to who was in this comp will agree. For some reason, everybody just seemed to have the time and the willingness to play a ton of hours. So like right from the get-go, like day 2, not even, like the end of day 1, everybody seemed to be pacing like a 130-hour week. And of course, nobody wants to be the person on their team to like sandbag, especially when all the teams were really close throughout the week. So I ended up going way harder than I was intending to. Ended up doing the 124.8, which I'm personally proud of. It probably would have been higher if I had done a bit more research onto what my scaling would be, but that wasn't really going to make the difference. I probably played about 130, 135 hours this comp of just like actual like awake and like logged into RuneScape time. Obviously, my ep not being exactly that because I wasn't going to get 1-to-1 the entire time. But yeah, crazy competition. This is my first competition experimenting with sleep deprivation. So, just kind of quick background. If you sleep 8 hours a night, that gives you about 112 hours, just 16 hours per day, sleeping the rest that you can actually play the game. It's about 118 hours if you include the introductory sits hour, which you do for pretty much every competition. So because of that, any more than 118 hours or 118 ep, you're essentially getting into sleep deprivation territory, which is sort of the standard of a lot of these like shorter term HP competitions. I figured that I was going to be doing some sleep deprivation, like maybe sleeping 6 hours a night, but I quickly realized that that probably wasn't going to be enough. And when everyone else on your team is doing sleep deprivation, you're sort of motivated to do so as well. Not that I was like forced into it at all, like this is definitely voluntary. But yeah, I had never done sleep dep in the past, at least not in a longer term. Like I'd done some all-nighters back in college and maybe high school, but this is a much different scenario. I found that about 4 hours a night was what I was capable of doing without dying. Um, for some reason, like I think it's sort of based on like what your like deep and light sleep schedule is. Like a lot of people were doing the 3 hour sleep deprivation, like sleeping three, getting right back into it. I just wasn't capable of doing that. Like that 3 hour point must have been like in my like deep sleep cycle, so I just could not get out of bed. But 4 hours of sleep, I was able to like sometimes I'd even wake up like without an alarm. Like 4 hours would go by, I'd wake up and I would just stand up and get right back to it. But yeah, it was a really really crazy competition. Luckily, I had a really fantastic team. All of us were in this one Discord. It's actually one of the players on our team. Uh, he essentially is a streamer, and he has a Discord that a bunch of us were in. So all hours of the day, you could join the voice chat. So many other people on our team and other teams even were there, so we could hang out, just joke around, talk about whatever, keep ourselves awake, and it was an absolute blast. Like super good locker room chemistry. Like I was laughing every single day. It was just such a fun time, and it was so fun that it motivated me to play more. Which I didn't realize. Like I didn't think that having just a good like team chemistry was gonna be a factor in pushing me, but that's something I definitely did learn, and it really made the difference. So yeah, sixth place on my team. I was originally hoping, once I learned about how much I was really going to be playing this comp, I wanted to do the at least top five on my team. I wanted to get the 130, but I couldn't quite get there. Um, this especially became apparent too in the last day or two of the comp when our team was sort of locked into second place. There's no way we were going to catch up, and so I wanted to at least beat Freckle Dad because he had beaten me in the last free-to-play comp, if you remember from a couple of videos ago. So I was happy to beat him. I was happy to, honestly, just happy with my performance overall. And this is cool too because, uh, yeah, it was just like focusing on smithing, focusing on, actually progressing my account and going towards 99. There was a bit of controversy this comp because some of the scaling was pretty lenient for some of the pay-to players, especially for doing skills that weren't actually efficient to their own game modes. I won't talk too much because I probably could have just done a bunch of telegraphing and a bunch of superheating, but it's such a like it was just so easy to do my own method, and it was sort of like cope to say that there's like 60 mil of efficient rune forging time you're supposed to do. So honestly, I'm not complaining about anybody else's rates. I think that, regardless, we all played a lot of hours. And, definitely congrats to everybody on my team. Congrats, obviously, to everybody on the Bird to Rot Masters. This includes Chaotic Free to Play, who, some people were kind of ragging him because he was getting really easy 1-to-1 with his air tiara method. But even without that, week long competitions, they're not about just doing the most efficient method, or rather doing the most click intensive method. They're about just sleep deprivation, and nobody can deny the fact that Tactical did a 144-hour week at least, crazy hours, definitely deserving of the win, definitely deserving of the badge. Tactical was actually the first free-to-play Iron Man, as far as I'm aware, to have a badge on their temple page, so really cool achievement. And then obviously congrats to everybody else on the team, and congrats to everybody else in the comp. To just look at the general overall, inducted with a 165, just absolutely insane. He was doing 1.5 hour sleeps every 30 hours. I don't know how he does it. Middle C2 on our team, he just did a crazy performance. This is the ranked 1 week for pretty much the whole game, of actual EHP. Just so many other people were doing in terms of their main EHP, they're getting under. My 120 for this comp was actually only an 80 because it assumed the superheating rates. So this was a huge achievement, and he did it all with DriftNet, which is not an easy method at all to do. Bunch of other gamers as well. I was able to. It was a 50-player comp, and I was just able to get over the 25 spot. Freck and I were right next to each other. So top 50% of the comp, especially as my first big real EHP competition. I'm happy with my performance. Oh yeah, Tanadino as well. Huge gains. She was doing 2.615 tick fire making. That's not an easy method to do at all either. And I don't think there was really much AFK. I know they did some U trees, but yeah, this was a big one. I'm trying to remember if there are any other free-to-players. I think there was... Halcyon Seed. I feel a little bit bad for Halcyon Seed just because that team that she was on was not the best. I guess there was some drama with people not being able to play, or people dropping out early, or whatever. So, even to the bottom team, still some big gains on it. So, I don't know. I won't get too much into the drama. You can kind of see too, this graph of all of the teams combined. This is such a crazy graph to look at. Really, and sure you can kind of see a split off in the first couple days, but even still, the top 3 teams were essentially neck and neck. Anybody could have gotten it until day 5. Just such a crazy thing to look at. This massive graphs is really just and you can even see too the Predators bounce between second and third place. I think we even had first place sort of early on in the comp. So yeah, just big congrats to everybody who's in this area. Just awesome time. Can't wait for next year. So now to get into the second part of this competition season. This is the free-to-play 10th year anniversary comp. Free-to-play is coming up on its 10th anniversary. The actual free-to-play game mode was officially released, I think it's February of 2015. So essentially this is the 10th calendar year, and we wanted to start the year off right with a big free-to-play only competition. So the idea here, similar to Terry, it was going to be a team draft style competition, and it was going to also last a week, and it was going to celebrate, the free-to-play anniversary with free-to-play only accounts playing. Signups were opened to pay-to-players on the basis that they play a free-to-play account. And in the draft, I was actually the first round pick to pause this team on the grilled Chi EHP's burritos. The naming convention here being that it's sort of an inside joke that Pause, the leader of the free-to-play clan, has always loved Taco Bell. And supposedly, it was actually recent knowledge to figure out that the Taco Bell near Pause is actually supposedly the best Taco Bell on the planet. And definitely not representative of the average quality of Taco Bell throughout the rest of the United States. Anyway, not important. That's just the reason for the naming convention. So this competition was a bit scuffed. I mean, the whole month coming up to this was a bit scuffed. Essentially, what happened was that I'll always travel back to my parents' house for the holidays. So like the Terry competition ended. The next day, I was on the plane back to my parents' house, and then I stayed there for a few days after New Year's for my dad's birthday. And the idea was that I was gonna fly in the night before this comp started. Unfortunately, though, after I booked the flights, I um, realized that the competition was actually going to be starting a day early after they had pushed the start date back. So I unfortunately missed the first 10 hours of this competition, but I still wanted to play, so I still gave it my all, at least for the first couple days. So our team, in contrast with my team for the Terra competition, we didn't quite have the team chemistry that we had in the previous competition. This was due to a couple of people not playing or not really playing many hours, some miscommunication between some of the people that were involved and whatnot. So it was a bit stuffed overall, but it was still a competition. I was the first round pick for pause, so I wanted to at least try to keep our team in second place. It was pretty obvious right from the start that we were not pacing nearly as much as the other two teams. You can probably see that. Yeah, you can see that in the other graph. Like right from the get-go, we were behind by a lot. This was at the very least at the start. This was due to not just me missing the first couple hours, but also like some other people not doing a 6 hour. So right from the get-go, it was going to be a scuff start. I played a lot during the first 2 days, but pretty early on, it was obvious that we were not going to be anywhere near the running for first place. So at least in my own mind, this is where things sort of switched into an individual competition, where I really just focused on individual ranking. My goal was that I was going to try to stay top 10, but it ended up being like a really stuffed week for work. Not that that's really much of an excuse, but I did have to go into the office twice, which put my gains behind. I, again with like the whole team chemistry, when you don't have a really great team, when you don't have people like in voice chat all the time willing to game, it definitely kind of lowers your motivation to play. I didn't do any sleep deprivation. I just sort of played normally. And then I also kind of messed up too because I thought I had provided scaling, but I ended up providing the wrong scaling for when I switched to ranging. And you can probably see that. Um, you might be able to see it kind of in the. Let me change this to fantasy app. Yeah, you can see it kind of right here. So I did smithing for the first couple days, and then when I switched to ranging, I had given the wrong scaling, so I wasn't getting 1-to-1 anymore. So in that week, I was still gaming. I probably did about 85 ep, assuming I played for about 90 hours that week. But still, I was in the top half of the competition. Still felt pretty good. I wanted to grab that top 10, but Bardo and PD both did some big gaming right at the end there. So definitely congrats to them. And definitely congrats to everybody in the competition. Most especially to some of the top players. Like, Pause came out of nowhere with this 130 of his in woodcutting. Ended up being like the ranked 1 woodcutting week for all free to play. Just some insane gains. I had no idea that Pause did still game like this. If any of you have kept up with his like progress videos over the past couple of years, he definitely slowed down a lot after he finished mining. Not for any fault to his own. I mean he's got IRL stuff going on. The dude's married now. But yeah, I didn't think that he could do numbers like this, and it was definitely motivating to see him drop more hours than I did in the Terry competition. So definitely big congrats to him there. Halcyon Frack, also some big. I mean, anyone over 100 was pretty big. And then to everybody else, definitely some gamers I didn't realize that were gonna put big numbers like this. Baldoon, I had never even heard of the guy before this, but he was on my team. huge hours, 90 plus. It's always big. PD McFly, another free to play iron I'm close with, big hours there. Ricky Horizon, a player on Phoenix who was also on my team. Big hours. I saw they were catching up to me close to the end. Set on this 4 as well. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, anybody on the first place team, congrats. Even to the pay to players that signed up as well. They did some big hours too. So definitely congrats to everybody involved. And just to kind of end this little segment off, here's the clip of me getting 99 smithing. Alright, everybody follow me? Walk away. Alright. Make sure everybody's here. Should I remove this off the screen for the screenshot? Alright, what's up everybody? Can't waste too much time. Some of us got places to be. Fuck yeah. So with 99 smithing out of the way, I have essentially arrived at the prey runecrafting wall. So essentially, if you remember from the matching guide I made, the two slowest skills being prayer and RC are essentially the last half of this game. Now, luckily, when I slowly got base 90s, it cut a decent amount of this chunk out of the way. But ultimately, I still have like 2,000 hours of gameplay to do to finish up these last two skills. So to get into this final grind, first step was getting rid of the last of my law runes. So when I decided to switch to Ring of Forging Smithing, I knew I was going to have more law runes than I needed to get 99, and I ended up having about 3,700 left. And if you aren't going to do crafting, you're not going to do smithing, the best way to use law runes is to do rune crafting and to use that teleport to kind of speed up getting to the essence mine. So goal right now is I'm at Minotaurs and I'm trying to get enough bone fragments to match my law rune stack. It's not directly 1-to-1 because for every 27 rune essence I get, I am going to use a bone fragment to tele straight from the Clan Wars portal. So it's essentially, I think the number is like 4,400 bone fragments I need to get. So that's just what I'm working on now. The final law rune grind, it is going to get me 99 magic, which I don't really consider a skill on its own. But it is something I have to finish, so it will be nice to get that out of the way. Then I'll be at the real Prey RC wall. So there's essentially a few methods of doing Minotaurs. Obviously, burying all the bones and getting that prayer XP is much more efficient, but it's much more click intensive. And in terms of banked runecrafting supplies per day or per week, I'm definitely getting more when I'm not burying bones just because I'm not burning out as quickly. So I put out a little, not even a guide, more just like a reference video where I talked over it a little bit at the beginning about how I do Minotaurs. So you can watch that for more info. But essentially the gist is that if you stand on this one tile in the middle of the room, you can hit much more of the Minotaurs that spawn here. Trying to just kill as many as you can, trying to one hit as many as you can, and then, trying to keep yourself from dying. And so, yeah, I have a couple hours more of this to do. I was able to get a good chunk of this out of the way during the free-to-play comp, but I definitely have another day or so to go before I finish stacking up supplies. And then I will be done with combats for probably until after I max. Or at least until I finish up 99 Prayer. I will be likely coming back here for the rest of runecrafting after that point, but plan for now is that while I do Boneyard for the rest of the year, I'm going to be switching to Earth runecrafting instead of Body runecrafting. This is really just because it's going to be really annoying to have to go either to like do just a little bit of minotaurs and then body rune crafts, or to have to bring body rune crafting supplies into the wilderness and risk losing them. I know that there's like really no PKers that are active at the boneyard, but it's always just that like little back to the mind risk of just bringing anything into the wilderness that you don't want to lose. So I'm just trying to get these things out of the way and trying to get it done. I think the efficient meta here is you really should be using the extra arrows that you get from either ogresses or hill giants to do all your ranging here. But because I didn't have any of those arrows, I decided to just buy a bunch of bronze arrows from the shop in Varrock. This is actually kind of funny because I kind of forgot that Leeds was going on, and I bought out every bronze arrow in all of the free-to-play worlds from that shop. But unfortunately, that wasn't enough, so I had to like go back on a separate occasion and buy out all the shops again. And so yeah, that's just what I'm working on now. It's a pretty easy method. I'm honestly going to be happy to do this eventually too when I go for the final 99 runecrafting grind. But yeah, this is where I'm probably going to be at least for the next couple days, and then probably about a month of runecrafting. And with that out of the way, it's time to definitely address the elephant in the room, that being the run energy change update. So this was an update that all of free-to-play had sort of been keeping an eye out for ever since they like first talked about it earlier last year. So we had no idea when this was going to come out. We thought it was going to be out months previously, but it just never came out. They ran those betas. They didn't mention anything about it. And then finally, just this past Wednesday, randomly, they decided to drop the update. So from the get-go, we knew that all of the rates for running methods were going to be sped up, but we didn't quite know how much. We didn't know if they were going to stick to the run energy values that were in the betas, or if they were going to change them. And so pretty much since then, the free-to-play methods Discord has really been a buzz with trying to figure out all the new rates for everything. We've done a bit of testing so far, so there are at least a couple things to talk about. Smithing, it appears that superheat smithing is going to be a perma-run method, meaning that you're essentially never going to run out of run energy while you make all of your iron plate bodies. So that rate's probably going to be increased from like 30k to like 32k. You have to remember though that this still includes the time to telegrab. So the actual EHP rate on Temple is probably going to go from like 25 to 26k if I had to guess. I don't know if that number is totally figured out though. Bigger increases though to prayer. Prayer is definitely going to be a lot faster. You just do a lot more running between the two big bones. So the testing with that's a little weird because no one's actually done it in like a proper hour yet, or like a proper hop limit, since I think you hit a hop limit in like 50 minutes. So we're still trying to figure out what rates are going to be for that. Tick Perfect, like theoretical Tick Perfect, went from like 20k to 22k, but obviously, depending on like how fast world hops are, and also including like the de-aggro time of the skeletons and the actual skill hopping time to get back up there. I have a feeling that the rate's going to increase from like 13.5k to 15k if I had to guess, or at least somewhere in that area, but that's going to require a bit more testing to figure out. The biggest update though is going to be to runecrafting. So runecrafting, this sort of became a hot topic because the idea was that, EHP rates assume that you're a Greyhelm, and EHP rates were assuming in the past that you were mining essence, banking it, and then you were doing the suicide body rune method. And this averaged out in the past to like 9.6k. It was probably a little less than that, but nobody had actually really done efficient like essence mining. So I think we had that rate a little bit incorrectly because previously we assumed 1200 essence per hour. And with the run updates, we're now able to get that, so it was probably less beforehand. But regardless, the overall rate, including the mining of the essence and actually making the runes, was 5600 an hour. It's likely going to go up to somewhere around 6k an hour, But a bigger change was how much faster the Minotaur and then the Body Crawl Canoe methods were going to be. So the idea there being Minotaurs were never assumed in the EHP rate because it was faster to do the Suicide Body Rune method, even if that meant that UIMs and hardcores couldn't quite get EHP. But the Minotaur method was always just close enough that it didn't really matter. But a lot of the, like, at least with the tick perfect calculations they've done so far in the methods Discord, they do show that Minotaurs are maybe a little bit faster than suicide bodies. The reason this is a big deal is because this would like totally change the melee meta for this game mode. So right now, for Grey Helms at least, it's assumed that you'll be doing Ogresses and then Hill Giants. Hill Giants having like the nice 50k an hour at least melee XP and the big bonus prayer XP. With Minotaur being potential meta though, your the melee HP rates would go down because you would be doing so much of them to do runecrafting. And if we all played efficiently, this would be a fine update to do. But because most people don't do efficient free-to-play rate training, it means that essentially like melee rates and range rates would go down to like 30 to 40k. And it pretty much means that like anybody who decided to do hill giants would just get way over, and people who did flesh crawlers, which is most of the game, would still be getting under, but they would be getting a lot less under. So there's gonna be a shit show if we decided to go with the Minotaur rates. So it seems like right now we're gonna stick with the hill giant rates and the suicide rates, even if Minotaurs are like 1,000 to 2,000 hours faster. It really doesn't matter when you're talking on the scale of like 80,000 hours to finish this game mode. So yeah, all you really need to know is that none of the methods have actually changed. It's just that things are a little bit faster, and if you see a decrease to your temple HP in the next couple weeks, that's probably why why you're gonna see that drop. So I'll end this video off with just kind of a really quick recap of 2024 and sort of what my plan for 2025 is. So I won't go into every skill. Essentially, 2024 was a good year. I got a lot of skills done and out of the way. Finished melees, finished fishing cooking, got to base 90s, and just by the end of the year, really set myself up to get into the slow skills this year. So that was pretty good. I played about 1,200 EP this past year, which every year I've played, I've done a bit more, but I have a feeling that I'm slowly coming up on the limit of how much I'm willing to play every day. Like, my current days look like, I wake up and the days I don't have to go into the office, I just will play for most of the day while I'm working, at least like AFKing something. And if I have to focus, I'll generally I'll log off or I just won't touch the account. And then I play a decent amount after work as well. I play a bit over the weekends, not nearly as much. Obviously, my year is much lower than a lot of other people's year. I know a lot of people, especially in the high level like pay-to-play community, who they'll play like 2, 3, even 4,000 hours a year. So I'm definitely nowhere near the limit of how much I could play. But there definitely is a point where I'm playing so much that I'm just not having fun anymore. And I don't want to reach that point. Generally, if I'm not having fun with this game, I'll just log off. So yeah, I think this like 1,200 year pace is probably where I'm gonna plateau at. Maybe I'll play a bit more, especially as I like come up on actually maxing. I'll probably gain some motivation and want to play more. But I really can't see myself playing more than like 1,500 EHP a year. But anyway, on to 2025. Big goals this year are 99 Magic and 99 Prayer. So, as I mentioned earlier, I'm probably going to get 99 Magic in the next month or so from using up these Law Runes. I'm already like so close. I'm pretty much at 13 mil Magic XP. Big thing is going to be Prayer. So, in a really like shitty turn of events, I somehow got logged out of my Jagex client. Like when I got back from right at the start of the free to play comp, like right as I like got back home from the holidays, I went to go log in and realized they had like must have been an update and they booted me out of it, which sort of sucks because it means that I lose access to all those world hops on both the C++ and JS clients, or sorry Java clients. So I'm gonna have a lower hop limit, but really what that means is that I'm just gonna be getting more runecrafting XP throughout the year as I skill hop. But I did the math, and it looks like if I can do 3 hop limits every single day, I'll get it by the middle of the summer. That's probably not going to happen though. But if I get 2 hop limits a day, it will be by the end of the year that I get 99 prayer. So that's sort of the goal I'm going to be pushing for. Obviously, we'll see how the year goes. I have some intentions of potentially job hopping, of potentially moving to a new city. Obviously, nothing's in the cards. We'll just have to see how that all plays out. I'm still single right now. There's a chance that I get a girlfriend, and that might significantly reduce the hours that I can play. It might not. Really, I don't know. But I'm just going to be focusing on, putting my head down, trying to get through prayer, trying to get through rune crafting, with the goal of getting myself really close to maxing by the end of the year. There is a world in which I can match this year. It's only like 1800 EHP away. Probably going to be less once the rates are updated on Temple for the new run changes. I don't think I'm going to match this year though. That's a lot more hours that's like 600 additional EHP I'd have to play this year, which some people would just say think that's nothing, but at least with the way I play, that's going to be a lot. So yeah, gonna be still playing. I want to keep up with streaming at least twice a month, or sorry, twice a week. I want to keep up with putting out these progress videos every 2 to 3 months. I'm likely not going to be putting out many more reference videos just because I've sort of already done my videos for prayer and runecrafting and smithing. So yeah, I'm just going to be gaming and I'm just going to be playing. So thanks y'all for watching. Hope y'all catch me on Twitch and have a great 2025.